And joining me now is a very special guest. I'm joined by Omar Abdullah, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Abdullah. It's been a tough fortnight, I'm sure, for you. And thoughts with the people of Jammu and Kashmir. First, we had Pahalgam, then we had Operation Sindoor. We've had cross-border shelling in which civilians have been killed in Poonch and other border villages. Your thoughts at the very outset of what this last few weeks have been like for the people of your state?
Well, I mean, what do I say? It's been unexpectedly bad. Obviously, Pahalgam came out of the blue. We weren't expecting anything like that, given the last 4 or 5 years of relative calm, followed by the intense cross-border shelling and bombardment, which brought in areas hitherto completely untouched by this sort of cross-border shelling. You talked about civilian casualties. We saw civilian casualties in Uri, in Rajouri, in Poonch, and areas in these districts that came into the range of shelling where we haven't seen shelling in the past. We saw drone activity over Srinagar and Jammu, something that is completely unheard of. We haven't seen this sort of activity in Jammu since, I guess, the 71 Indo-Pak War. I mean, what does one say about the kind of fortnight that Jammu and Kashmir has had? It's been difficult.
It's been difficult. Let's start with Pahalgam, Baisar, and the manner in which that massacre took place and the manner in which there was an attempt made by the terrorists to discriminate between Hindus and Muslims. Did that make it even more difficult in terms of the fact that now Kashmiris found themselves suddenly being in the crosshairs of terrorist violence? Has this increased, you believe, the anger in Kashmir against those who've used terror to divide people?
Well, there's no doubt that for the first time, the people of Jammu and Kashmir in particular, came out of their own accord. It was a completely spontaneous, unplanned, channeled protest by people against what had happened in Pahalgam. And this happened in Srinagar, it happened in our other major districts, it happened in rural villages. Basically, the people of Kashmir came out and said that we don't support this. This is claimed to have been done in our name. But this is not who we are, this is not what we want, and we will not allow you to use this violence as if this is something that we want.
But in the backdrop of Pahalgam and then the attack on the innocent civilians in Poonch, we reported this terrible story of 12-year-old twins who died in the shelling. Is there growing anger against Pakistan and what the Pakistani army state has done to Jammu and Kashmir over the last 3.5 decades? What terror has done to the people of the state?
Well, if the people weren't angry, Rajdeep, they wouldn't have come out. Nobody forced them to come out. It wasn't part of any government plan. It wasn't part of any political party's plan. It wasn't part of any individual's plan. It was a spontaneous expression of anger. But may I just add that where there was a spontaneous expression of anger about what happened in Pahalgam to those 26 innocent people, there's also a simmering disappointment that not enough is being said about all the people who died in this cross-border shelling. It's almost as if they're being paid lip service. The fact that as I said, we've lost people in Rajouri, we've lost people in Poonch, we've lost people in Uri, Baramulla, we've lost people cutting across religious lines, we've lost Muslims, we've lost Hindus, we've lost Sikhs, we've lost civilians, we've lost BSF troopers. If gurdwaras and temples came in the range of shelling, so did 2 madrasas in Poonch. But somehow in the national narrative, while a lot is being said about the 26 people who died in Pahalgam, not nearly enough is being said about the innocent blood that was spilt as a result of this shelling. It's almost as if that almost didn't happen.
But that has been the story in a way of Jammu and Kashmir, hasn't it? That a number of Kashmiris have suffered because of what terror has done, what Pakistan-sponsored terror has done over these decades. Their story often doesn't get told.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making. It's a pity. No, but only half that's the point. Only half the story is being told. The story of Pahalgam is being told, but the story of, like you said, the twins, the lady in Uri who died in her car, my additional district development commissioner who died in his home in Ramban, in Rajouri, while carrying out his duties. These stories unfortunately aren't being told, and I want them to be told, because they're a part of a continuation of the same story that started in Pahalgam.
Let's come to the Prime Minister for a moment and the Modi doctrine, what happened with Operation Sindoor. Do you fully believe that this is the way now to take on terror? There is a terror attack. We will hit back not just at the terrorists, but at their sponsors. The Prime Minister has made that amply clear. We will not be subject to nuclear blackmail by Pakistan. We will go and hit them in their terror bases and their air bases. Do you support that?
Well, which Indian won't support it? I think every Indian who believes in their country and believes that their country has a right to a peaceful existence would support this. But then this is a continuation of a doctrine that was started by Prime Minister Modi earlier. Now he's put it into words. But essentially this is a continuation of what happened. It started with the Uri attack and the surgical strikes. It was followed by Pulwama and Balakot. And this is the third installment in that same story. This time the doctrine has been put into words, but action on this doctrine started a few years ago.
Will it deter Pakistan-based terrorists, you believe? Because Pakistan has sponsored terrorists. They've also do you believe that this will deter this Pakistani army state, this jihadi factory?
Rajdeep, I wouldn't presume to speak for Pakistan or the infrastructure that it sets up. This is a question only the government of Pakistan or the people that Pakistan sets up in these sort of camps. Only they can answer that. I can only hope that it deters them. I can only pray that it deters them. But I can't say it with any degree of confidence, because we've seen violence in the past, and I just hope to God we don't see the sort of attack that we saw in Pahalgam in the future.
One of the worrying aspects, of course, is that some of these attacks do not take place without local support. And there is a belief that both in Pahalgam and in other attacks in the past, there's been local support from within the valley. How do you see that? Will that infrastructure also crumble or not?
Rajdeep, I don't want to get into a political argument on this channel today, and I don't want to do it in the aftermath of what happened in Pahalgam. So I'm not going to get into the whole local infrastructure and what has been said about it in the past, except to say that it has existed in the past. It has been to a very large extent marginalized. And I think we need to focus on the positives that came out of Pahalgam. There were very few. It was a very, very dark cloud that hovered over us. But the one silver lining in that dark cloud was the spontaneous way in which the overwhelming majority of the people of Jammu and Kashmir came out against the attack in Pahalgam. I think this is an opportunity we haven't had in the last 35 years. So rather than focusing on the negatives of the very minuscule sort of minority of population that gives support to these sort of attacks, I think it's important to focus on the overwhelming majority of the population that stood up against these attacks. And we need to build on that core support. My worry is that in everything that's happening, we will lose sight of that. And this, once in a lifetime opportunity perhaps that we've got, will fritter it away.
No, but is that anger against Pakistan, you believe? Is there now enough sufficient local anger against Pakistan and what Pakistan has done in blooding the valley over the last 3.5 decades?
How do you want me to quantify that anger, Rajdeep? We've seen a spontaneous display of that anger. What more do you want the people of Kashmir to do? They came out spontaneously and loudly made their voices heard. What else do you want them to do? They've silently withstood the shelling from Pakistan without complaining. They haven't complained that the sort of breakdown of the ceasefire put them in harm's way. They've quietly withstood the destruction of their homes, of their shops, of their livelihoods, because they believed that that was the price they had to pay for the situation that developed after Pahalgam. So I think, as I said, we sometimes tend to miss the forest for the trees. The focus for us should be on the majority of the people of Jammu and Kashmir who have very vocally made their stand known, that they don't believe that what happened in Pahalgam was done for them or supported in any way.
How do you use what you use the word opportunity? This is an opportunity. What is that opportunity you see? Is it now to ensure that more is done in a way to bridge the divide that has existed in the past between Kashmir and the mainstream Indian politics? Do you believe this is the right time? You said earlier, I don't want to anymore talk about statehood. This is not an issue I will raise now. That's what you said in the assembly.
No, I didn't say that. I'm sorry. No, Rajdeep, that's not. No, one second.
What did you say?
It's important that I said that this is not the opportunity to talk about statehood. My exact words were, no, let me finish, because you sort of have taken statehood off the table in toto. That's not the case. I said हमने इससे पहले भी मांगा है, इसके बाद भी मांगेंगे, लेकिन आज इस मौके पे नहीं मांगेंगे. The assembly session that was called to condemn the attack in Pahalgam and to sympathize with the 26 people whose lives were lost and their families, that was not the occasion to talk about statehood. I will talk about statehood. It will be an ongoing conversation with the government of India, but that wasn't the time for it.
So when would you, what do you, when you say opportunity to me on the show, that this is an opportunity, how do you believe this opportunity should be availed? What would you like to see?
I believe that there is a huge constituency for peace in Jammu and Kashmir. That constituency has to grow. You have to start trusting the people of Jammu and Kashmir. You have to start trusting the people of Kashmir. I think it's important that instead of randomly picking up and detaining people, we need to be more focused in the action that we take. Not every Kashmiri is a terrorist sympathizer. Not every Kashmiri is an overground worker of these terrorist organizations. So we need to stop treating every Kashmiri as though we suspect them. Not everybody who uses social media is doing so to demonize India. But somehow, oftentimes, we respond in a very heavy-handed manner. It's almost as if when all you have is a hammer, then everything to you looks like a nail. That's not the way we need to treat the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And that's the point I made. That's when I talked about this is an opportunity.
You're making an important point, because we've seen in the last few weeks security forces blasting the house of alleged terror suspects. Do you believe that's the right thing to do, or that they also deserve due process? Is that what you're saying, that this is what fuels anger from time to time?
That's one specific thing. It goes beyond that. It sort of spreads to the sort of very widespread, random way in which we detain people. If we don't detain them, the way we summon them to police stations from morning till late at night. There are a whole host of things that I believe if we sort of correct this constituency for peace and this spontaneous constituency for peace, this can be grown. And that is the point I'm trying to make. I'm not in any way, shape, size or form supporting the terror infrastructure in Jammu and Kashmir. I'm drawing a distinction between the significantly much larger population that wants a normal, peaceful life and trying to insulate them from the sort of actions that we've seen in the past.
Let me come specifically, Omar Abdullah, to the ceasefire and what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump seemed to suggest that he was the one who brought the two sides together, and then went on to say that he was open to settling the 1,000-year Kashmir dispute. Of course, he needs a history lesson, but quite apart from that, how do you see that? Does it worry you that you've got a US president talking about mediation and thereby going against stated Indian policy, as well as internationalizing Kashmir in a way?
Well, unfortunately, as a result of the last couple of weeks, Kashmir is back and center as an international issue. To some extent, the fact that the US has sort of hyphenated India and Pakistan again after a very long period where this thing had been completely dehyphenated, I think that's something we're going to have to take into consideration and try and work to correct. As far as Donald Trump and his attempts to mediate, look, we know what he's like. He injects himself into a whole lot of situations that he knows very little about. I wouldn't take that aspect of it very seriously. We'll have to wait and see. I think that's something for the Ministry of External Affairs and for the Government of India to deal with.
No, but does it worry you as the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, the manner that a US president should announce the ceasefire and then almost unilaterally claim that he's ready to resolve the dispute?
Rajdeep, I've got too many real world problems to worry about what Donald Trump is tweeting or not tweeting. I still have people in hospital who are injured from the cross-border shelling. I still have people whose homes are in ruins. I still have people whose businesses and shops are in ruins. I need to put their lives back in order. Where what Donald Trump has to say on his social media platform or on X, honestly, in my list of priorities is pretty low down in the pecking order.
Let me ask you, though, a question that I know troubles you, but you've not always been open about it. The fact that while Kashmir was, after Article 370's abrogation, effective abrogation, brought into a union territory, law and order, for example, was taken away from the Chief Minister, goes to the center, the LG runs the show. Do you believe that you've been a Chief Minister who's been hamstrung as a result, that even when Pahalgam happens, there will be those who will point fingers at you, Omar Abdullah, when the truth is you didn't even attend the high security review meetings called by Amit Shah that was all done with the LG there? Does that trouble you that the law and order is not with the Chief Minister and you therefore do not have the powers you need to have?
I'm sorry, what's the question in this?
My question is very clear. Do you believe that you need, that if Omar Abdullah is to be held accountable, you need more power also? Power with accountability, you must also have the power.
Look, Rajdeep, when I'm responsible for security and law and order, by all means hold me to account for it. And until then, you'll have to hold those people to account who are responsible for it. The elected government is not responsible for security and law and order. And therefore, as much as some people might like to hold me to account for what happened, this is not the opportunity. Yes, as and when Jammu and Kashmir is restored to statehood and full statehood, where the elected government is responsible for security and law and order, then I'm responsible for every single life that is lost in Jammu and Kashmir during the period that I'm Chief Minister. And I will take on that responsibility. I've never shied away from accepting responsibility for the things that are under my direct control. But as I said earlier, the conversation about restoration of statehood is one that will be had, and it will be had at the appropriate level in the Government of India.
Appropriate level, but when? Should it be had right away? You said in the assembly that was not the opportune time, but should it be held now?
It's definitely, well, it's not going to be held tonight and it's not going to be held on your channel. It will be held behind closed doors with the people that matter in Delhi, and it will be held.
At the earliest? Do you believe it should be held at the earliest?
Let's be fair. I think the Prime Minister, Home Minister, Defence Minister have a few things on their plate at the moment. Let's get through this immediate problem and then we'll take it from there.
Do you believe Pahalgam was a major security lapse? Who do you hold responsible for it?
I'm not getting into that one. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, but again, it's not a conversation I'm going to have over the airwaves of your channel or anybody else's channel.
You know, you are also the tourism minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and one of the beliefs was that tourism was becoming a huge bridge between Kashmir and the rest of the country, and tourism was booming. This was going to be the big season for tourism. Now that Pahalgam has happened, a lot of tourists have left. What is your message? How are you going to bring back and restore confidence that Kashmir is safe to come to?
We'll do it brick by brick. It's going to be a slow process. But it's a process that we will begin. I think at the moment, our focus should be on ensuring an incident-free Amarnath Yatra. If we can conduct an Amarnath Yatra incident-free, largely on the same scale that we've had in previous years, that will give some confidence going ahead, and then we'll build on from there.
What's the biggest learning for you, Omar, of these last 3 weeks? Is it, as many believe, every time we feel that we're taking one step forward, Kashmir gets pulled one step back because terror takes place or there is some tragedy lurking around the corner? How is all of this? What is your big learning from what's happened in the last 3 weeks?
That in Jammu and Kashmir, just because you've had a good day today is no guarantee you'll have a good day tomorrow.
And do you have a message for Pakistan and Islamabad? What's been very clear is this is a country whose army rogue state has, as I keep saying, bloodied your valley. Do you have a message? Would you, if you were to tell Asim Munir, who spoke of the two-nation theory and Hindus and Muslims can't coexist, or you wanted to say something to Shahbaz Sharif, what would it be?
Please let us get on with our lives. Please, just let us get on with our lives. We want to live peacefully. We want to be a part of the Indian growth and success story, and just let us get on with our lives.
And Omar Abdullah, are you more optimistic about the future than you were before the 22nd of April? Do you believe that it is still possible for Kashmiris and indeed the people of your state to live peaceably and to find perhaps a light at the end of this dark tunnel? Are you a little bit more optimistic today now?
How do I answer that, Rajdeep? The sound of the guns is still echoing in our ears. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. If we get a few good months, a few peaceful months, if we get a good Amarnath Yatra, then call me back and we'll talk about how optimistic I am. Right now, let's just say I'm hopeful.
I want to say one thing though, Omar. I heard you speak in the assembly, and I know you've met a lot of those who've been injured. You've stood up to be counted at this time. Your speech was a fine speech that brought a lot of people, both in mainstream India and in Kashmir, together. I hope that Hindu-Muslim unity can last. I'm sure you want that above all else, because that has been a huge scar, both in the Kashmir Valley, going back to what happened to the Pandits, to what's happened in recent times. I guess Umeed pe duniya kayam hai, right?
Well, absolutely, and we've seen evidence of it on the ground. This attack in Pahalgam was designed to split communities. It was designed to tear this country apart on religious lines. It was designed to pit Muslims against Hindus. And the one place where this would have been most apparent would have been in Jammu and Kashmir. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen in Jammu, it didn't happen in Poonch, it didn't happen in Rajouri, it hasn't happened in Doda, in Kishtwar, in Ramban, in any of the places where this was designed to tear people apart. And hats off to the people of Jammu and Kashmir for that Hindu-Muslim Sikh Ittihad. They have lived up to that Mahatma Gandhi's sort of Roshni Ka Chirag lit in Jammu and Kashmir in 47. And again have proven that they will not allow these forces to rip apart the relations that exist between communities.
Let me leave it there, Omar Abdullah. As I said, we end this conversation on a note of hope. It isn't easy being the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, as you've realized yet again in the last 3 weeks. But I thank you for joining me and having this conversation, Omar Abdullah, and I call it a conversation in the truest sense of the word. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Omar Abdullah there, speaking out and speaking very loudly and clearly. I hope the people of India and Pakistan have listened today to the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir.